Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. This is Dr. Jared Vasquez, your online ringside physician. Today we're coming to report some sad, somber news. Ex-Bellator and LFA fighter Katy Collins has passed away from the complications secondary to a brain aneurysm. Okay, so we have to understand what a brain aneurysm is in order to understand why this happened to Katy. A brain aneurysm is a weakening or a thinner part of a blood vessel. Imagine a blood vessel just simply as a pipe that's made out of an elastic material. Of course, blood is flowing through that pipe. There could be an outpouching, if you will, of that artery that causes a weak area that could burst, bleed out, or create a mass effect and compress. What are the causes of an aneurysm? Well, most aneurysms are acquired. That means that they are inherited. It's a generic difference of the characteristics of the material in the blood vessel that make it weak, and perhaps elevated blood pressure or maybe trauma can cause this weakening area to bulge out and transform into an aneurysm. Now, there are mainly two types of aneurysms. The first one is the fusiform aneurysm. Imagine just a pipe again, a tube, if you will, the artery, and there's just a thicker part all around the tube, so it just loses the form. It balloons out completely, so it loses all integrity. The second one is a saccular aneurysm. Those saccular aneurysms is pretty much the bifurcation of an artery, almost like a twig and a berry, twig and berry, if you will. It's not a medical term, it's just fun to say. So it's berry aneurysm. We most commonly see it in the circle of Willis in the brain, and they're pretty nasty, with a very high mortality. Symptoms for aneurysms, guys, they are very wide and they're very vast. It's very unspecific is the word I'm looking for. It could be numbness in the face. It could be visual changes. It's often reported as headaches, but it could look like a stroke. It could look like a concussion. In this case, that would be relevant as Katy was a fighter. Is there a predisposition for an aneurysm, and is fighting one of those predispositions? The short answer is it's genetic predisposition. There are factors that could influence the formation of the aneurysm, like smoking and uncontrolled blood pressure. But I made a search through PubMed and through all the literature, and there is just not a solid study or a direct link with combat sports or high impact sports with the onset of aneurysms, and that being the generating or the driving force for it. Diagnosis would be very simple, straightforward. You get the symptoms, you go through the emergency services or through urgent care, and you get shunted, and you go to a CT scan. You get a basic computer tomography, and you can locate this with the dye. The prognosis of it, it's actually, it's pretty good prognosis if you catch the symptoms early, if you make the diagnosis early, which takes us to the next step, which is the treatment of aneurysms. So you have that outpouching. I found a cool video on this. You find that outpouching, and what you want to do is you want to divert flow away from it. So there's devices almost like a heart stent, just a different structure that are placed through the artery that has the outpouching, and it just literally, like I said, it just diverts the flow away from the sac of the aneurysm towards the artery, making that aneurysm devolve and just be reabsorbed by the blood vessel. In case of the saccular aneurysms, they just get filled with a coil. But again, guys, the theory behind it is the same. You just want to fill that aneurysm with a coil so flow diverts away from it. Now, this is a hot topic because people that don't understand the pathology or the process, the mechanism of this injury will say, it's secondary to combat sports, to injuries, and it's really not. There could be some isolated cases, but the timeline here is probably that this was an old injury, not an injury, but sorry, this was an old chronic condition that could have been exacerbated. We just will never know. I mean, and it was probably present before and it got exacerbated or it just didn't have anything to do with fighting. We'll just never know. This is one of the things, as a ringside physician, I've been practicing ringside medicine for the past 4, perhaps 5 years in the state of Iowa, a lot of fights here in Florida as well. It's something that we don't screen for. There's simply not enough funds yet allocated to, a small show, small amateur show. Somebody's never had a CT scan. Those studies can be quite pricey, and you don't detect the aneurysm, and these things can definitely happen. Hopefully in the future we'll have a better system to get these studies done that's cost effective and then permits promoters to do the shows and doctors catch the injuries earlier. So there you have it, folks. Rest in peace, Katy Collins. Her fight is over. Like I saw the tweet say, I think it was her coach put that tweet out. My feelings go out to her family and her kids. She was survived by 2 kids, so it's going to be a tough time. Please, I'm going to link the GoFundMe page right here in the description. So go there. If it's $1, if it's a quarter, whatever you want. Thanks for your attention.